When I first found out, like, I thought, like, I'll never be able to speak to anyone. I thought I was the only one, like, in that position, but actually coming here and seeing other people that are in the same position as me, and even younger children that are in the same position as me, like, getting on, like, really well, like, it's just motivated me, like, and even by taking my tablets, because I never thought, like, I'll be able to take so much tablets, but, like, seeing other kids taking them, it just made me feel better about myself and motivated me.
I feel the same way. Peer support has been invaluable experience because it helped me put things into perspective. Because no matter how I may be now, it was just like there were points where it was just like there was a lot of self-loathing and a lot of like, what's the point? I became very apathetic towards a lot of things, and it's like the expectations people have of for you, and your peers around you and the struggles that they face, that you don't want to let them down if they look to you for inspiration as well. So it's just like that support system where you all rely on each other, and it's just like we are each other's inspirations.
When we think about adolescence, we often think about rebellion, but actually, adolescents are the most conforming group you'll find in society because they conform with each other. And because of this, using peer groups to work with adolescents can be incredibly successful. Using peer groups with adolescents living with HIV is even more significant because this group lead a life where they're shrouded in secrecy and stigma, and there are profound feelings of isolation.
This is a really isolated group of young people. They often don't talk about HIV in any other arena until they come to peer support group and until they're with their friends who are also living with HIV, who have that similar experience of secrecy in their lives. They can learn from each other about HIV, they can learn about experiences, about naming their HIV to others. We've worked with I always remember a young person coming to one of the peer support groups and just thinking, I'm not the only one. I really thought I was the only one, even though I'd been told by doctors and nurses and yourselves that I wasn't the only one. Until I came to group, I thought I was the only one.
If you ask young people what they want, they want to live normal lives like everybody else. And so what they certainly don't want is for their social group to be exclusively other young people with HIV infection. They want to live normal lives. On the other hand, meeting some other young people in the same situation as themselves significantly reduces the sense of isolation. And most young people who come to clinic are in the situation that in their school, in their social group, in their church, whatever, they are the only young person with HIV. And if there isn't a young person there with HIV, they almost certainly won't be talking about it. They then go away to a summer camp where everybody who's there has got HIV infection, and it becomes, by being so common, it becomes a non-issue because it's almost taken for granted. And I think that very single experience can be very helpful for young people in helping to see their own experiences as being mirrored in those of others and of being normal and not something unusual.
It's wonderful for giving them a whole circle of peers, friends that they can contact and stay in touch with, and it is very different from the support they receive at hospital. I think it's unique. We can't provide that same support, so I think it's really important. I think they're definitely more confident. They do become more comfortable about having HIV. It seems to give them more skills to be able to talk about HIV, to ask more questions. And I think the nice thing is the clinic becomes more sociable as more of them get to know each other actually outside of clinic. They then chat much more to each other in clinic. And actually sometimes we'll talk to some of the other young people who don't go to support groups or camp. So I think it has a nice knock-on effect. And you see them growing with confidence over time, which I think is really nice to see. And their knowledge base definitely increases as well. So I think sometimes there's a limit to what we can manage to do in clinic, and even if we have explained things to them, often a lot of things need explaining many times, or it can be that being in camp maybe is a more constructive environment for them to process that information and to really understand it.
I'm going to talk about two different types of group work. One is participation and consultation, and the other is therapeutic group work. With participation and consultation, this means bringing together a group of HIV-positive adolescents to explore an issue. This could be, if you're setting up a support group, getting a group of HIV-positive adolescents at the beginning to look at how that group should run, where it should run, how long it should run, on what days it should run. So you're going to the core group of people who are going to be accessing this group and getting them to put the structures in place so it meets their needs. Within consultation, this can also mean going to a group of patients and asking them about clinical services or maybe studies or trials. Therapeutic peer support is where you bring a group of adolescents living with HIV together and you create an environment where they talk about issues that impact upon their lives. They can work through some of these, for instance, sharing their experiences of talking to other people about their HIV status, supporting each other in family issues, talking about adherence and the medicines that they take.
I've seen some young people who for years have not had any social support go to camps, meet other people and come back really inspired by the friendships they've made and by what they've learned from that. Often what's as important as anything else is simply the friendships and the opportunity to meet other people in similar situations. Sometimes it really is specific things, and I have met young people whose ability to take their medication has been turned around by going to summer support camps. The other issue that's important is those who feel unable to access that and continue to feel unable to access it.
If a child never gets a chance to talk to other young people or to really understand, because our aim is for them to grow up feeling comfortable, being adjusted to the HIV, that they're not different from anybody else. And so trying to help the parents see that actually this child isn't talking to anybody else. They're carrying this burden by themselves and that can be shared. And they get the opportunity to talk to other young people and just feel, much more comfortable about having HIV. So sometimes we'd actually get them to show them the website and some of the young people's comments, because I think even if they're not ready to talk to another young person, they can just read that themselves quite comfortably, knowing that comes from another young person that's just like them and this is their view. And I think some of the comments on the website are quite helpful because some of them start off negatively. I wasn't sure about coming, I was a bit anxious at the beginning, and then I made all these friends, it's the best thing that happened to me. These are my friends, my family, they're so positive about it. And so we try to encourage the parents to at least give the young person a chance to try it out. Yeah.
Going to peer support groups, for me personally anyway, it's finding out I'm not actually alone. There are loads of people living with this condition. There are older people living with this condition. There are older people doing things that I would like to do in the future, that I look up to and I see as role models. So being able to go to peer support groups, for me, is reassurance. It's saying that I can do these things and I can live this lifestyle. And I can do that because I can see that he's doing it. And if he's doing it and he's on meds, why can't I do that? I'm just as capable.
It's also an opportunity to give this group of young people really good, thorough, youth-friendly information and work with them in a group to go through issues such as how do you talk to someone else about your HIV diagnosis, how you've struggled with taking your medicines, how you feel about a life with HIV.
It's them also being able to be in an environment not like school or in a shopping centre or anywhere. It's where you can, if you are comfortable, talk to someone about it. And it doesn't even have to be a young person. There are workers and volunteers that you can have a conversation with and demystify things that you're not comfortable enough to talk to your parents or your doctors about. Because even though your doctors are there and they're meant to make you feel comfortable and relaxed in that environment, some people just aren't.
In our clinic, we have a peer support worker who's a member of the multidisciplinary team. And she's a young adult now in her mid-20s who has grown up with HIV and has been through our clinic structure. A recent case springs to mind where a 17-year-old not on antiretroviral therapy was referred to our clinic. And his mum had very strong beliefs that she didn't want to take antiretrovirals and had never taken them herself, even though her health was pretty poor, and she didn't want him to take treatment. But he was beginning to get quite a lot of symptoms and wanted to explore treatment for his own benefit and to take that decision himself. However, he was incredibly scared about the side effects of antiretrovirals because he had been told that they would kill him, that they would change the way he looked. And despite talking to healthcare professionals about the more modern antiretrovirals and that the risk of toxicity was now very low, he couldn't quite take that step. However, when he went to talk to somebody who themselves had been taking antiretrovirals for 15 years and had been taken steps along his journey, that convinced him to start treatment. And he now has an undetectable viral load, is incredibly fit and healthy, out playing football. But I think without that step of being able to meet the one-to-one peer supporter and actually talk to somebody who took antiretrovirals themselves, he would never have made that step.
When you're looking at working with a group of HIV positive adolescents, first of all, it's very important to have a professional facilitator. By all means, use older peers to run groups and activities, but they do need to be supervised by someone who is professional. HIV needs to be talked about openly and without fear from the very start. And this needs to be a safe place where anyone can come and they can be accepted and they cannot be judged and they can ask any question. It needs to be youth friendly and all the activities need to be fun and engaging. You can deal with difficult topics in a fun way and you can always finish the session with laughter and games. When working with adolescents, you always need to consider how you're going to manage behaviour, but particularly with this group, you need to consider where that behaviour comes from. If you bring an HIV positive adolescent into a group and ask them to explore an issue which is incredibly sensitive and may have massive emotional impacts on them and they've never spoken about it before, they can then exhibit certain types of behaviour. They may start to exhibit challenging behaviour. They may get angry. They may withdraw. And therefore, you need your professional facilitator there to manage that and support that child to get through that and get to a good point at the end of the session. Also, when you get a group of adolescents together, there may well be conflict amongst them. And this could be that just some of them don't get on. The other thing to consider is that everyone walking through the door knows that they have HIV. We've had experience of young people turning up at groups as a way for the parents to disclose to them rather than the parents telling them themselves. And therefore, be prepared for how you will manage that and how you will support that child, but how you also ensure that the group still runs.
And I remember before I came to peer support, I was very quiet and shy, and I didn't like to talk to anyone. But then when I finally came to camps and stuff, I just found it a lot easier to speak to people because I learned how to really put myself across and how to talk to other people and really found out new things about myself. And I think that's why peer support is really important because you're not only finding other people, but you're still finding out who you are as well.
The professionals really need to realise that it definitely is on the same line, if not above peer support. If it's not on the same line as medical, it's above, because HIV is really it's personal and it really does affect your life. I think for me, peer support has helped me. Because I really genuinely feel like I would not be alive today if I didn't know other people who are positive and if I didn't have friends or that support from people around that are positive. Literally, I would not be standing because when you're positive, you do feel very when you find out that you are positive, you get very scared, very oh, is it just me? Da 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 da. You start feeling like you're alone, and it's that moment where you meet other people. And you realise, oh, okay, I'm not alone.